So, hey everyone, welcome back to Best Life Abroad, not your average travel podcast. I am Dr. Raquel, your host, and today we are in for a treat. We have Tracy with us today, and she is going to first tell us a little bit about herself. But her specific area of focus is somatic healing. So, we'll learn about how you can incorporate somatic healing into your move abroad. So, hello, Tracy. Thanks so much for being with us today. And if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me here. My name is Tracy. I'm currently living in New York City. I work as a relocation coach and somatic practitioner, helping people navigate the emotional layer of relocation. And I left home at 16 years old, and since then, I lived in six different cities around the world. So each time before I move to a new place, I give myself 3 months to try to see what happens. And now, after 22 years, I've made myself homes in places all over the world. And now I'm passionate about helping other people to do the same, to create that felt sense home in your body, in their body, so that you can feel at peace no matter where life is taking you.
Oh, I love the 3 months. I really love that. Like 3 months, we'll give this to make sure it resonates and it's a place that we can be, and then we'll take it from there. I love it. And so you mentioned leaving home at 16, living in six different cities. What do you feel like were some of the greatest emotional challenges that you had to face during those moves?
Yeah, so I think this is also the part of relocation we rarely talks about because we prepare for the logistics, the housing, the job, the visa, but no one really prepares us for the emotional impact of starting over. Because when we are moving to a new place, we're also moving through layers of grief, loneliness, cultural disorientation. And in my journey, I feel one of the emotion that hit the hardest was grief. And for a long time, I didn't even know that was grief. I thought it was just homesickness or sadness until one day I saw this words that's called ambiguous grief. So this is about the invisible losses we have after moving abroad, like the loss of identity, the loss of belonging, the loss of familiarity. And when I saw that word, I just felt like I was deeply related to that. And that was exactly how I felt when I moved abroad, especially that happened 8 years ago when I moved from Hong Kong to Vancouver. At first, I thought I was going to have a new start, but after I arrived in Vancouver, I realized the reality was nothing as I expected. That's when I realized I was not just grieving for what I left behind. I was also grieving for this dream that never come true. And also there is also a deeper layer of grief. Sometimes after living abroad for a long time, when you return home, you feel like a stranger at a familiar places because there are a lot of moments, relationships that cannot be recreated. So that's something I call the grief of time. So I feel to navigate relocation is to navigate grief.
Tracy. Oh, Tracy. So much of what you're saying, I just am like, ah, yes, yes, I have definitely experienced those things. And I appreciate you talking about the grief of time, because I think that that has been like one of the main things I did not realize I was experiencing after moving back to the US.
Mm.
And it was like moving from living abroad for almost a decade and then moving back now, like as a parent, now having to like navigate all new things in my home country. It feels so weird because it's like like even I remember first moving back and not knowing I had no idea what grocery stores these people were talking about. I was like, is that a grocery store? Because I don't know what that is. And so they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know what you're talking about. And so it's like you're kind of weird because you don't know these things, but
Yeah.
there is an expectation that you
Mm.
respond a certain way, you move a certain way, you think a certain way because I am from the United States. And so it's kind of been, I didn't realize this until more recently, but I feel like I've been trying to like force other people to understand like what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. But it's been so hard because it's like when I'm like, why do parents do that again with their kids? And they're like, because that's how it's done. But I'm like, but we know that doesn't make sense, right? And it's like, no, why doesn't that make sense? And it's like, okay, so this is like a losing battle here. And so I really appreciate you sharing that because I do feel like there's been such a huge amount of that time grief that I have been just experiencing for year after year after year with being back in the US that I had no idea that that's what was happening.
Mhm.
So yeah, I so appreciate you highlighting that point, because it can happen on your way out to a new country, and it can also happen as you return back to your home country after being gone for quite some time too.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people call that the grief of time, and some people call it the reverse culture shock, right? So this is the emotional adjustment that happens when you return home. And why this is worse? Because when you move abroad, you kind of prepare yourself to adapt to this new environment. You kind of expect a new challenge, and people around you, they will be understanding and supportive. But then when you return home, everyone expects you to feel this comfort, ease, belonging. But then the reality isn't often the case. That's why we feel even more frustration when we return home and feels like you change, places change, people change, nothing stays the same.
Hmm. Yes, so true. And so you mentioned also that, like, for many people, the logistics of the move, the housing, the visa, the jobs, that's pretty much what gets focused on. And often that, like, inner transition is what gets lost. So can you tell us a little bit about, like, what somatic healing is, and then also how somatic healing can help bridge that gap?
Yeah, of course. I think the logistics can help us survive after moving abroad, but the emotional healing and somatic healing can really help us thrive after moving abroad. And I wonder if you have this experience before, like when you maybe you were on a vacation or you visit a friend who live in a different country, and when you arrived, you just feel, oh, this place feels like home. I want to move there. I want to settle down. Right? So you feel open, you feel peaceful, you feel nourished when you arrive there. So that is the goal of somatic healing. But instead of getting that feeling of openness, feeling of connection, feeling of peace from an external place, in somatic healing, we help our clients to create that feeling inside their body. We help them shift their energy inside their body so that they can become a vibrational match for whatever they want to call forth in their life. So, for example, if we want to feel at home in a place, first we want to build that felt sense of home in our body. And once we build that sense of home in our body, you either feel peace where you are, or life will bring you to the right place at the right timing. So life becomes less about searching and more about unfolding.
That's really great. And I know that, like, loneliness, isolation, those can really be huge for many expats. Like, once that initial honeymoon phase of living abroad wears off. And so, from your perspective, what is really happening in the body when someone is feeling that kind of disconnection?
Yeah, so basically, there are two types of loneliness most people will experience after moving abroad. The first one is social loneliness. So this means you're missing a network. You don't have anyone who you can call to grab dinner with, or maybe there is no one you can reach out to grab dinner after a walk on a Sunday afternoon. And so this is about missing those casual connections. So think of this like during COVID, everyone was locked down at home. There is no social events. So that's what most people experiences after a move. And then the second one is called the emotional loneliness. So this one runs a lot deeper. So this means you can have a social circle, you can have new friends, coworkers to chat with, but you still feel emotionally disconnected. Like have you had the feeling like you feel lonely even in a group of people, even when you're surrounded by other people? And that is because what's missing is not just company. What's missing is connection. You want to surround yourself with people who really see you, understand you, and accept you for who you are. And that's why this one goes a lot deeper because when we move abroad, there is part of us that's try to hold back because we are worried. What if we get judged? We're not familiar with their social rules, cultural norms, or language barriers. So we always carry this fear of being rejected, because vulnerability takes time and we don't feel safe enough to open up. And that is why it's almost impossible to build emotional connection if we are hijacked by the fear. And
Mm.
oftentimes, this also shows up in the body, such as this feeling of restlessness, feeling of emptiness. Oftentimes, I suggest people to pay attention to how their body feels before they reach out to your phone to scroll through social media, because that's usually the reason we do that is because we try to override that sensation in our body. It feels very uncomfortable to feel that. That's why we try to distract ourselves by using social media. But next time when you try to use social media, I would invite people to really take a pause. Just notice what is happening in your body in that moment. If we can really sit with that sensation, sit with that feeling, it will begin to soften.
That's really great too. I think like just even thinking about those relationships, that community, that connection, I think too that that is one of the things that kind of had contributed so much to the reverse culture shock that I felt.
Mm.
Because specifically, like when I moved abroad to, like when I studied abroad, you have kind of like your built-in connections. So it's like you all are experiencing this together, go forth and learn things. And then when I moved then to Germany, then it was like, okay, we moved there for my husband's job, which was to play American football. And so again, we had this built-in network of an American football team. And then moving to Belgium, it was again, I was working for a university, so I had like the built-in students connection. But also, like when you are having a child in Belgium, they connect you to like other people who are also having a baby around the same time. So it's like they try to build in networks and connections that way as well. And I was also taking like dance classes, I was taking language classes. And so there were like all these pockets where I was able to like build these actual connections with people, all in different ways that we connected. We had a wonderful church while we were there. And so it was like then going from there back to the US, where to me, it's just much more like individualistic. It's much more like fend for yourself. It's much more like we're over here doing our own thing. And so it took so long to then be able to again build that type of community and connection. And I think that now that you are mentioning that, it does definitely resonate a lot. But in terms of like the reverse culture shock, in terms of like figuring out how to build that connection again, but in a different way. And in a way, like with people who you know, but now they're totally different, or you're totally different. Somebody's different.
Yeah, I feel you. So this is really about redefining what community means to you. And like you said, building connections in different ways. Like in my own journey, I feel like when I was at home, I felt like community means people who share similar life situations. Maybe we went to the same school, we do the same work, and that's what it means to be in a community. And then after moving abroad, I realized like community is more than that. It really challenges you to step outside of your comfort zone. You begin to meet people outside work, maybe through shared interests or shared values. And that's how I met one of my best friends at a spiritual meetup. Even we're coming from different cultural background, but we have the same passion for psychology, spirituality. So at that time, I thought like maybe a community means being surrounded with like-minded people. And then after leaving Vancouver, I moved to New York and Toronto, where I feel like my definition of community has evolved even more. And that is because an experience I had. I remember this one time I went to an acting class. At first, the room was really quiet. Nobody talked to each other. And then this moment, a Spanish couple walked in, and they didn't speak a lot of English, but the moment they walk in, they just began to radiate this loving energy. They said hi to everyone. And even their English was not good, but everyone wanted to be surrounded with them. Like maybe you had that feeling too. You already feel this person's vibe before they even say a word. And you just want to be friends with them because they have this loving, compassion energy. They can see people for who they are. They accept and love people for who they are. So that is why nowadays I feel communities doesn't even mean being with like-minded people. It just means like having that loving energy within you. And then once we have that within us, we begin to attract people